21st. It's the end of the month of the 2025. And this is class number 4. We're going to continue the lesson. We're in person today. Last week, we had to do this class virtually. Today, we're continuing in person, as we should all the time. And let's get started. I'm just going to share my screen right now, and we're going to get into it. So I just also mentioned to the students to get Adobe XD. I did want to cover it, just a small amount of it, for you to get familiar with the applications that are part of the UI UX community. So if you go down here, right, if you scroll down, you can just get or open XD. Just scroll down for it, okay? It's a good stepping stone also from XD to Figma. They're very similar. So once you learn one, you can learn the other, okay? It's also more Adobe related, which means we can build an interface for something really simple. You just open it in XD and execute a nice little presentation. There's other programs out there besides Figma. There's Sketch. There's some of the more newer ones. But just get it for now. I'd like to have some fun with it next week anyways, okay? And we'll do some XD, and then we'll get into Figma after that, okay? So get XD for me, please. The next thing we talked about was the video we watched last week. I didn't expect everyone to watch the full video, but I did want to stress out some important points. As far as, let's say you do want to get into UX design, and as these two graphic designers did, what are some of the portfolio recommendations for you to have a good UX portfolio? So they talked about it. And if you download the actual zip file that I made, so that would be under class 4, today's lesson. I'm going to talk about the structure. That's another thing we're going to discuss. The structure is a very important fundamental aspect of the elements of UX design. And we're going to talk about that. That's my presentation for today. And after, when we have a little time, I want to get some hands-on stuff done and talk about maybe the UX UI kit and maybe some of the user persona design elements you can work on. So this is the structure. This is the Future interview. Future is the YouTuber that does a lot of design podcasts and YouTubes and stuff. He's well known in the industry. So if you download that, you can see exactly the screen captures that I created for you. So here's the screen captures under this folder. They're not in order, so you have to kind of scavenge and, I guess, do a scavenger hunt through them. So this is like the best tips for UX and web design. Who are the users? What are their challenges? What are the steps the user takes? Like, these are some of the questionnaire things you can do. That's how the user personas are really handy when it comes to this stuff, to demonstrate how you can do that. Design the flow, wireframes, lo-fi mockups, and A/B testing. So these are the things we are going to be doing in the coming up assignments as well. Here's another one. This is the project timeline, the process, user research, okay, usability testing, what went wrong, what did you learn, and the end results. There's a lot of it's analytical. The next one is you have to consider that the users are not stupid. I don't like that word, but it's part of their thing. The user speaks in analog. Yeah, right. I should have cloned that out, right? While we speak in digital. So analog and digital are two different signals. And that's why the communication is always broken. And you got to translate analog to digital. Clear call to action above the fold. What does that mean? That means if you open your phone, I have a fold here, the call to action has to be in the first screen. You shouldn't have to scroll to look for the main thing to register, right? I just did a course for February the 8th. We're doing a digital denture course, and I have to send this mass email to all these technical people. And I have to make sure the design was fitting above the fold. So right away, they can just click to register. They didn't have to look for where to click to register. You have to make it easy for people, right? So user-friendly in all aspects. So clear value prop, better than everyone else. Design sprint, the 5 steps. Take the client along with the journey versus throw it over the wall. So this applies even to graphic design. When you're doing like a brochure, like you're doing for Roberto's class or other things, but you're doing it for real clients. You're not gonna just do it in the dark and just send them an email and say, okay, here it is. You have to have a meeting with the client. You have to take them through the steps. So this is the colors we're choosing. These are the fonts. This is the breakdown. We're using columns here, images here. So they're more involved and they can give you critiques along the way. And they feel like they're a part of it. Some people just have their, they just feel like they have to always have their way. So they're going to challenge you and say, I want it this way instead of that way. It's a personal thing. So it's better that you get them to agree with you in the beginning. This way later, they'll be more or less reluctant to challenge you in your design decision making. Okay. So it's very important that you establish communication with your clients or your team that you work with. The other point was prototyping needs to be visually complete. And this is very true. When you guys do your prototypes in the next project, you're not going to put lorem ipsum, okay? You're not going to put button 1, button 2, and button 3. Those buttons will have meaning, and they're going to be real buttons, right? Like home, about, register, whatever the call to action is. They have to work, and they have to be realistic. You can't have fictional looking stuff. Get across functional, buy in front of client stakeholders across functional goals. It's like a business thing. Google Analytics to inform decisions. User interview. Here's the tip. Listen 2/3 of the time and ask a question, count to 5. These are the mental things they talked about. These are the links. I included these in the course resources anyways. Google's a big part of the Google Sprint to have their own version of teaching UX design, and the link pretty much takes you there as well. This is some of the things that they also discuss, like the fast load times. That even affects your SEO. There's apps that accelerate your website to load on Google, so it ranks higher. So fasting load times is actually crucial to a successful product, whether it's an app or a website. Skeleton screens give context to hack user perception, navigation, front and center, perceived, speed increase, individual buttons versus hamburger menu. That's an argument. I mean, I like the hamburger menu, but if there's something really important, they say try to put it like on the actual design itself instead of just everything hamburger menu, right? It was cool like 10 years ago, right? Right now it's automatically set up for you. The hamburger menu is an additional menu. Your primary menu should still be visible, right? So call to action, call to action, call to action. Surface information and content user wants. A stagger animation, start slow and builds. So be careful with some of these animation parts as well. Focus on first impressions, which is very important. Set user expectations. 88% of consumers won't return based on a bad experience. We talked about this, and you can relate to yourself as well. If you have a bad experience with an app or a website, you're not going to use it again. Creative copywriting tells a concise story. Thoughtful color schemes, easy to read. Set performance budget. First content, full paint. Speed index, time to interactive. These ones here. Recognizable user interface obvious. Don't make up icons that don't make sense. With a lot of professional operating systems and apps, they all use the same little gear icon for settings. Remember that? We all already know, oh, that's the settings button or the trash can. That's how you delete something. You're not going to just reinvent something and put something totally different. So try to go with what works, basically, right? You can make it creative with colors and size and maybe make a different looking trash can, right? You can be creative in that sense, but I don't see anything else. Look what Windows uses, a recycling bin. You think they care more about the environment than Apple? Apple recycles all the laptops, apparently, when you bring them in. Apple's more environmental friendly than Windows. Why are they using a recycling bin and Apple's using a trash can? It's just how it evolved from the get-go. Legally, Windows couldn't put a trash can because they would go to court over it. They actually already went to court. Who stole whose graphical user interface? Steve Jobs versus Bill Gates back in the 90s. I think that got settled, but Steve Jobs accused Bill Gates of saying, "You're stealing my graphical user interface, my icons, my menus, my buttons." He said, "No, I'm not." So you open up a window, my X and O's are on the right, yours are on the left. You're using a trash can, I'm using a recycling bin. So all these in court, these are all points you can argue. And that's how the argument was settled, right? Well, same thing with being more acquainted with what people are used to, you have to use it. Even Microsoft and Apple had their differences and they settled for it as well. Progressive web app, combine the best of web and mobile, richer experience that feels like a mobile app, and just companies that already kind of have that figured out. There's more now, of course, the Starbucks, the Trivago, Spotify's. Add to home screen, push notifications. Push notifications work. However, they could be annoying, especially nowadays. There's a lot of those happening. Location, camera, voice, reliable, fast, engaging, mobile first. So these are the things they're also pointing out because most people use their cell phones than their computers. It's more convenient. So you have to make sure your design looks good on the mobile device first over anything else. I think I screen captured a definition here. This projector keeps going out. User persona, it's a definition on can't be that. But it works. It looked good, right? Pulled it off, almost pulled it off. One of those, right? Look, see? A user persona is a fictional character that represents a typical user of a product or service. Personas, not at all. Not at all. There we go. See, just when you said it, right? Nobody move. Don't breathe. All right. Personas are used in user-centered design and marketing to help understand the needs and behaviors of target audience. So I showed you some user personas already. These are great in your portfolio. If you look at some up, you can see a lot of these online. You can Google some of these. You can see what user personas look like. And that's how you can like a visual demonstration of your research and you can create. And I thought this was a fun exercise or assignment for you because you get to design it and also have a nice visual appeal to it while you do your research on the two people. Now, I also showed you some examples from last semester, right? You want me to show you a few more? Just quickly, because I know it was different when I was doing it from home. So before I do that, let me just quickly recap it again, because it is an assignment. It's due next week, by the way. So after we're done today, start this thing fast, okay? I know a lot of, sure all the pressure is building right now with all the assignments. So this is your user persona assignment. I covered this last week, but just because we're here in person, you can ask me some questions. So you're gonna come up with a product and then two users that'll basically use the product and how it'll help them in their daily lives. So designing a product requires you to think about the needs of the users, even those needs are very different from your own. In this activity, you'll be designing a product from the ground up for specific needs of a user. So basically come up with something, okay, that you can, like a smartware is what we chose. So you're gonna consider the mobile interface. You're not gonna make the interface, by the way. I know I put that in there, but you gotta put yourself in the condition that you will be eventually, because you're going to do an app project later. This is just an assignment for the user personas. So the digital interface will be done later. And again, it doesn't have to be this, but fictional. You can think that for now. Consider smart clothing to be any piece of clothing that also integrates computing technology. So right now you probably have, how many of you have smart watches on you right now? How about smart glasses? Smart bracelets, smart rings, smart shoes, insoles. Oh, you have the ring? She has the ring. You have the ring? Does she have the ring? Oh, it's you went like that. Smart socks, smart whatever. I got these. I'm always buying for trinkets when I saw these gloves. God damn here. I bought these Bluetooth gloves and they're nice and warm, but they have a Bluetooth mic. So if you want to talk on your phone, you can go like this. But how weird does that look? I mean, especially walking around like this, people think, maybe you're not really there talking to yourself doing this. But it worked. It actually worked. The microphone was here, the earpiece was here. So when you're really cold, you can do this and talk to yourself or talk to someone else. So they have all kinds of different things. Sorry? No, these are just prescription. They're kind of transitions. But I was looking at them and I just didn't find any use. I thought the camera wasn't that good yet, but it's good for the experience. What I did get is the Meta 3. Have you seen the Meta 3 virtual reality glasses? Those are cool because that's a different, virtual reality experience, augmented reality. I don't know if I can solve this projector problem because this keeps happening. So you're going to come up with a product, come up with one, like make one up, and you can maybe get a picture on Google, or you can Photoshop a little bit of it, have some fun with it, and pick the two user personas that'll be the actual customers for this or consumers for this product. So you're going to brainstorm users as many different kinds of people and create two potential users. Okay, sorry, I'm highlighting that screen over here. And you're going to use Illustrator. If you want to use a different program, you can, but I put Illustrator here to design the overall perspective by delivering two-person persona and see example for more details. Okay, so that's the actual outline for that. To better show you this assignment, same as the other students, they saw the previous class, what they did. I'm going to show you what the other class did before, last semester. I got some really nice, interesting results. So I did share this with you in the video, but I'll do it now in person as we're recording it again here. I don't mind showing it to you the second time. I'm just going to show you a few, though. I'm not going to show you most of them as we did it last time. So here's a product that one student picked, eye massager, a smartwear product. It massages your eyes from maybe, a long day at the office staring at a computer. Maybe you guys do the computer stuff all day from your graphic design classes. And then you have the two people that will benefit from that. And there's like I like the chart stuff. I like to see this. I like to see a little bit of description, the person and some of the brand or the labels that they're affiliated with, right? And the next person is this one here. Okay, so you can kind of do something like that. Here's another example, a smart ring. You can pick any product on the internet and just make the stuff up, okay? You can have some fun with this. Because one day, believe it or not, these things are real products. They're not made up, right? And here's the user persona for one. And here's the user persona for the next person as well. Okay. Here's some smart shoes. And the two personas. Underwear. Okay. And I like how the user persona was carried out as well after that. Smart gloves. Heated finger light and camera. And here's the two people that'll have their thing. Well, they even have quotes and stuff, which is kind of a nice addition to the overall presentation. Smartwatch. Smart jacket, right? You get the idea, right? So pick anything that's smart scarf. Pick anything that you want to kind of have some fun with and pick the two people that'll fall into that category, okay? I think I uploaded one example for you as well. So if you see the actual, it's under class number 3. I did do the actual example of, this was a student from maybe like last year, but I just had it uploaded and transferred for this semester. So Paul picked smart eyeglasses and Paul did user persona on 2 people as well, okay? So there's an example you can look at online as well. I like to see something different. If you come up with some nice thing that you can wear, I don't know if I can think of anything now, but think about what hasn't been thought of it. You're already thinking of something, aren't you? Yeah, me too. I need one of those too. I had one really early today. I made it at home. Something about home coffee versus Tim Hortons coffee or Starbucks. It's different. Get one of those. Okay, so now let's talk about any questions about this because it's due next week. Okay, so honestly, this wouldn't take you more than an hour of your time. That's an hour and a half tops. Okay. Now, next week also, we're going to start with XD and Figma. So I'm going to introduce both applications. I really want to focus on XD a little bit to transition from Adobe to XD and the actual relationship they have as an app suite, right? And then we'll talk about the difference of Figma, and then we're going to start using more interactive applications. So I think we're almost done with this whole UX segment of the process. So I'm going to cover this one here today. And then after that, whatever time we have left, you can use it for your assignments, okay? So let's go ahead and cover the structure part of the UX. I'm going to blow it up full screen. This is the third plane, okay? As you know, there's the 5 planes. The strategy we talked about, it's more like a financial business goal thing from corporations, stakeholders, then the scope, right? How real could this be? The feasibility, could this happen? What are some of the things we have to live with? What are some of the things that won't work? Some of the things that will work? Once you assess all those 2 things, the next thing is now how you're going to structure this app or website. This could be applicable for any digital product assembly. So structure is the most, I think, because that's why it's in the middle. It's the backbone of the whole process. This is the most important one, I think. And you should really kind of understand where it falls in with everything that you're doing. So what structure does is it defines how users get to a given screen and where they can go when they're done, basically. Structure also defines categories of information, right? Structure is created by interaction design, which presents information in a way people can interact with it. Structure is also created by information architecture. These are all important things. Because without categories, imagine go to Home Depot and you don't find the, plumbing, electrical, houseware, whatever. How are you gonna know what you're looking for? If everything's everywhere, you're not gonna find the product. Everything has to be organized. Structure is very important. Same as you building a website or building an app. You have to put structure, right? So categories, interaction design. Okay, how are people gonna click on that button to get to that product? Like a shopping cart on an e-commerce website, right? Checkouts. How many products do you want? Right? So like Amazon master that as well. That's why they're very successful. And there's information architecture. How are you going to organize information? There's so much information. The challenge is how you're going to make it fit. Like, I don't know if you've done video editing. They take a 3-hour movie and you have to make it a quick little 30-second segment or a 2-minute trailer of a movie that's coming out, whether it's Netflix or whatever. How do you create a 2-minute trailer from a 2-hour movie? You grab the most important points, the action scenes and all the other stuff, to not give away the story, of course, and you create a trailer and you advertise it as a thing. Same thing here. You might have to condense all this information and present it in the beginning so people can click, find out more, and they go to the more section. So information architecture is very important. Organization, labeling, search and navigation systems. Good structure organizes information in a way that provides intuitive access to content. Intuitive, another one. Just like we talked about the trash can and the recycling bin. You don't have to think what the trash can does. Automatically, you assume it's deletes. That's intuitive, right? You can't just make stuff up that doesn't make sense. So go with what works and make it intuitive as much as possible so people can learn it the first time. Structure should be appropriate. So these are some of the different structures that you can come across or build. What I'm doing right now here with you is this one. I'm creating a linear narrative. This is a predictable structure. What I'm doing is I'm going next, next. I can go back or forward, next and previous. I'm doing a linear presentation. There's not much interaction here except me talking and showing you stuff. But what you're going to be creating right now is you are already last semester, you made something like this, right? Like a website where you have to kind of interact with the product to go to different pages. Same as your app. Apps are more over here because you might log in, log out, check out this other section that you have, like social media and stuff. So there's different structures for different products. So if you're doing a presentation, you're going to land over there. If you're doing a website, probably over here. If you're doing like an interactive mobile app, you're probably going to end up over here. So different ways of structuring plans. It's called nonlinear hyperlinking. Flexible, but possibly confusing. Yeah. Structure should accommodate future change. Now, why is this diagram here? Because this is like a blueprint of a very complex, maybe like an apartment building, a house or a warehouse or an office building. You can't, once you build a house, it's very difficult for you to move the foundation, right? You can't really. You can maybe move the door, the window, and that's very challenging. Maybe build a wall, but you can't make big structural changes. So that's why you have to make sure when you structure this, you should accommodate future change because it's on a digital environment. So it's got to be processed very strategically. So you could add a page, delete a page, insert another section. You should always have room for that. Structure should be flexible. Again, this is what's this month? We're still in January, right? So February is tomorrow, and then we got March. So let's say we have a project we're working on. This is our March plan, right? And this is April. April, we're gonna add 3 more sections. I'm just making up a project here that you might do on a website, and you're gonna add 3 more sections in April. And then by the time we get to May, you're gonna add, or June, I should say, we're gonna add another 4 sections there. So this is how you can actually plan your deal. Now in September, if you notice, there's more sections added in the beginning and afterwards. So just the way you can plan, this is the kind of chart you can create to always be flexible on a learning scale and a progressive scale with your teammates or clients. Interaction design, dancing in step. And this terminology is like, it should be very kind of, I guess, natural like feel. Okay. That's what's called dancing in step. If you learn a dance step, you can do it without thinking. It's natural, right? So that's what's called dancing in a step. Interaction design defines the structure and behavior of interactive systems. So it creates meaningful relationships between people and the things they use. It effectively communicates interactivity and functionality. It reveals simple and complex workflows. It informs users about the state changes. And when done right, it prevents user error. These are all critical things that if you don't do, the product will not be successful. And these are the 5 essential principles of interaction experience design. So you have things like, you have a lot of things actually, but those are the 5 ones that stand out. So consistency, predictability, learnable, visible, and feedback. Okay. So you got to address these 5 points. Very important for you to consider when you're building these products. Here's a standard looking website that you see every day. And it says, don't be different just to be different. Be different when it makes something better, right? So a lot of the menus you see now, a lot of them are consistent with usually at the top here. The logo usually is over here. And your other stuff is over here with additional menus like login, log out stuff. This is like a staple. This is like almost every website follows this rule. 90% of the websites, including some of the ones I've built myself. I got like 10 websites out there and platforms. I think they're all similar, like WordPress kind of designs, and they all follow the same structure. And why do I do that? Because they work and people have no problems using them. Now, what makes consistency happen is a consistent UI kits. And if you can see a UI kit from Apple, Windows, all the main operating systems and apps have a UI kit that they've designed to accommodate their standards. And this is an example of one of those kits that you can see here, and just points out some things that are consistent with the way they're presented. Behavior, voice, these are transition, rollovers, tooltips, leverage the visitor's prior experience here and elsewhere. Voice, labels and terms should be the same throughout the experience. Content and imagery should have a stable, consistent style, right? Now we're going to be doing some transitions and rollovers with interaction design later. That means when you roll over something, a little message will pop up and say, hey, tooltip, did you know this and that and so, or click here to get more information. You've seen this everywhere on your phone, on websites. They always have little pop-up menus or little things that'll give you this insights. So that's what these behaviors do. And of course, voice is when you inform, like AI right now, ChatGPT has a cool voice function. We can talk to ChatGPT and it'll talk back to you. So that's a pretty good kind of interactive thing that they've built, as well as imagery and other content that you're going to build as yourselves. Design patterns. So reusable solutions to recurring problems. You can reuse the same stuff over and over, but you gotta also address problems that you might have to fix. Content may change, but interaction and process stay the same. So does that make sense? Content may change. So the link will always work to go to that section, but that button may change to something else, or the images might change, the content is going to change, but the navigation, the system doesn't change. It's already done in place. Make actions and results consistent and predictable. So that's something you have to consider. Discoverability should involve luck or chance. People should be able to tell that an opportunity to interact is available. Use content hinting. Avoid false bottoms. Nike did this as a mistake. That's why I have Nike's website. They did a bad job. People were complaining. Hey, what do you do here? You have to scroll down to navigate to the website. They fixed it now, but this before. So it was very kind of hard to navigate with some of the things. People like they were trying to be too creative. Sometimes being too creative it's nice, but if people can't figure out what to do, it defeats the purpose. So you have to meet that happy medium. Be creative, but don't make it hard for people to use your product at the same time. I remember like when we did the flash days, it would be as creative as you want. That wall can be an interface there. You can just click on that printer, click on the machine, and things can start interacting in a visual environment. But how would people know that that red big box would do something unless you tell it? So when you roll over the mouse, something can pop up and tell you something's going to happen. These are ways you can solve problems. Click and tap. So those are the touch points. People will attempt to interact with anything that might possibly be clickable. How many times have you tapped on something on your phone, like discovering things, and you're like, oh, this is not working. This is not working. And or the app, this morning I was doing it. I realized my banking app was frozen because they didn't tell me to update it. The guy on the phone's like, sir, you have to uninstall it and reinstall the app. I'm like, of course. Right? So that's helped the problem. Some bigger app companies, they automatically say update. They update for you, or you click update button. But a lot of them don't have update. You have to uninstall it, delete it, and reinstall it again. That's the update. That's frustrating too, also. Uh-huh. Right.
And it was within. So that's how the company is able to push the updates as soon as it goes running. And then the security of people, and then the stability of what generates, and then the regional.
Right.
That's how they managed.
And this is where in the Asian market.
Certain basic enforcement.
Okay, that's smart actually. See, that's a really good point. Of course, and it makes the users happier, less problems with customers and feedback and stuff. Yeah, that's perfect. So you're cutting out the middleman and having these people directly update those stuff. So we're always growing and evolving solutions. Of course, they figured out before we do here in North America, right? We used to be the leaders, now we're like the followers, right? Okay, standard UI components. So these are user interface components, are understood to be interactive, use them. Different text color, 3D and icons will invite interaction. A lot of these like little buttons, you know, they're like, they look not 3D, but they're like popping at you kind of thing to make them more notable, right? Because if you have them like hidden or lost, people are not going to notice them. So always use your graphic design skills to enhance the visual appeal of some of these interaction buttons and stuff. So different colors, 3D and in icons will work in that sense. Touch and gesture. There's no hover state for touch screens. Did you know that? You know what a hover state is, right? On a website, you roll over and a drop-down menu comes up. But on a phone, you have to tap. There's no rollover because you have to touch the screen. So you have to kind of separate the two interactions, of course. Don't do rollovers on mobile converted websites. As a matter of fact, what I do when I build my drop-down menus, I click on them. We used to do a lot of rollovers that were cool. Before the smartphones, everything was rollover, rollover, rollover. Now it's no more because it's touchscreens. I make sure I click on the menu and then the rollover happens. It's an interactive drop-down menu, right? Consider the lefties of the world. How many people are left-handed? I'm right-handed. Left-handed, right? Do you have problems with some apps on your phone? When you're using it with one hand, though, your left hand, right? And all apps are built on the right. You have to cross over your fingers sometimes. So you got to roll over his thumb on because a lot of the menus are on the right. He's left-handed. What kind of iPhone do you have or phone? 16. So he's got to reach over the other side to hit the menu. So he's got to use the other hand. But if you're right-handed, you can just kind of go like that. It's easier. You don't think about this, right? But that's why a lot of times, if you're a professional app developer, you can ask the person, hey, are you left-handed or right? Based on their preference, you can design the app to accommodate the user. How many people do that? Not too many. I don't know any actually that'll do that. I've never seen any app that asks me if I'm left-handed or right-handed. Maybe games. The game developers care more than the apps. Don't make people reach over the interface and obstruct their view, which is the left-handed users on apps. That's very true. I like the Android for that. You can customize your OS, but the app itself is not customizable. That's something you have to live with, right? But the app, yes, the OS definitely is. Absolutely. Interaction should be easy to learn and easy to remember. Ideally, people use it once, learn it rapidly, and remember it forever. In reality, they use it a few times, learn it, and hope they remember it next time. This is how we kind of cultivated this smartphone type of behavior. You guys, you have to think when you open your phone. How much thinking are you doing? Not really, right? You know exactly. Click here, click here, click. You know your process. You've learned it so fast. It took you maybe a week, maybe a few days. How about if I give you how many iPhones right here? If I took your phone now and I gave you mine's an Android, what would you do then? You'd probably get frustrated, right? Huh? I got both. I got an iPhone home as well. I got iPads. I got iPhone. I do different things. But my personal business phone is an Android because I have my Google stuff on it. That's Google's more integrated with my Android. Apple is more Apple for my laptops and stuff, my iPads and so on. So I'm not a brand loyalist, right? I don't care. I just use whatever works. But think about how inconvenient it would be for you to switch your phone. Especially now. Thank you. There's the ecosystem now. It's like moving to a new house. It's like, hey, where's the washroom? Oh, it's over there. Where's my closet? It's over here. Everything personal is related. It's no more a convenient this. It's your work, your life.
There's not so much hardware in the space of software. Exactly.
Right?
For a lot of, for example, AirPods, they don't put into features. You know what I mean?
That's right. You lose all the features. Yeah.
Most of the features are not accessible.
You're right. Yeah.
I think with smartwatches, most it's still called Android Wear. Like Android Wear, like any other, like the Garmin watch, they're practically labels.
They are. So therefore, the other people that use, let's say, the Android products. Me, I like if I get the Samsung watch, Samsung's good with Samsungs. Just like Apple and Samsung are two kind of companies that work cohesively with their products. That's right, the microbiomes, yeah. But these other ones, hard, right? And the Apple's the best one, I think, in terms of that. Because once they get you, you're done. That's why they're a very successful entity, of course. All right. Next one is same thing here again with easy to remember. Okay, learnable. So these are icons that if you look at them quickly, can you see what they do? Can you understand what the icons do? Just by looking at it. They kind of look different, right? But believe me, once you use them for number of times, you'll remember them because they're icons and the icons will create a mental picture in your brain. The next time you know this will do that and this will do that. So you can learn new icons and stuff. And sometimes if you have to do that, you have to do that. A lot of websites and tools I use have icons that I'm not familiar with. You can't always use stuff that's redundant. You can be creative, but keep it kind of learnable, right? A learnable environment. So remember, intuitive really means single trial learning. Single trial learning. Even interfaces that are easy to use may require learning, but the more we use it, the easier it seems. We learn behaviors from experiences across the web, devices, real-world places, and objects. That's how experience is, of course. Here's where we are right now. Gestures can be arbitrary. Do you know how many gestures are there on top of your head? These are the most obvious ones, right? You got the tap, double tap, touch and hold, horizontal scroll, vertical scroll, right? I don't know if you guys know your any iMacs, I was gonna say MacBook Pros. You have the MacBook Air. You have the laptops now. Did you know with the three fingers you can swipe upwards and you can actually do this and do the desktop thing, right? These are the cool gestures that work only on Mac but not on PC. And PC have a different gesture system. So again, based on the user, what using it for is different. Double flick right, double flick left. I mean, it gets a little overwhelming sometimes. And I be honest with you, even in my level, I still use the more basic ones that we use here. Why can I swipe to move an image in a window, but not the whole page? Right? That's another people were asking questions. So can you answer these questions? If it's, again, predictable environments, where am I? How did I get here? What can I do here? Where can I go from here? If the answer is yes, once you look at something, it means you've provided a strong sense of place. You've set the correct expectations. You've made it possible for people to accurately predict the outcomes of their interactions. So when you present something, make sure it's very, very easy for the user to understand all these main points. So you got to ask yourself, when you look at your design, hey, if I was someone else, because when you build something, you don't know what someone else will think. So that's why you do a lot of testing and a lot of surveying and asking questions. But you got to put yourself in their shoes and make sure you can answer those questions. Previews. This happens a lot in tutorials, games, interactive stuff, right? They give you tips on what to do before you start doing it, right? I think a lot of games have this though, right? First they tell you, hey, let's do a tutorial before you start playing this game. So you have to consider this if you're creating some kind of interactive product. You have to make sure you add these hints or tips. So tap to manage your sources, tap to access other pages, welcome to Pulse, news analytic and analysis, business, whatever it is. You have to create little bubbles, little gestures for people to understand what this interface will do. Adobe does it all the time with their, the tools. Next, they give you tool tips and stuff. It's a very popular thing that you have to consider designing when needed. Here's another one here. Labels, instructions, and icons and images set expectations about what to do. Touch here, what will happen, open this, drag it over there, where the user will go, foster a sense of place, how the screen will respond, do X and Y will happen. Feedback. Think about without this, what would happen? Without the progress bar. When you're downloading a file from the internet or loading a movie, and if you don't see that bar, what are you going to think? Or submitting your project on Blackboard. Do you have that bar or a percentage meter? But without that, how would you feel? That something's wrong, right? Exactly. And that has happened, I'm sure, before, right? With other products. But this is like very important. Somebody had to come up with this solution for this user experience to be compliant, okay? Or to be like more user friendly. Because if you don't have a progress bar, a status bar, you're not going to know what's happening, right? So this is why it's important when you're doing this interfaces, you have to consider everything. Location, where am I? Status, what's happening? Future state, what's going to happen? A lot of times it's finished and nothing else happens. It just disappears. Whereas you can just says done, click OK to finish. You acknowledge it. You feel a sense of completeness. So these are the things you have to consider when you're building these systems. Here's another one here. Every action should produce a visible, understandable, and immediate reaction. Acknowledge interactions to let people know they have been heard, felt, or seen. Failing to acknowledge an interaction can lead to unnecessary repetition of actions and errors for mistakes. I've done this before. Have you done this before? How many of you have purchased a product twice by accident? I did it with PayPal. I clicked once, nothing happened. I clicked again, and then the screen went. So you bought two products. Oh, because I thought it wasn't working the first time. I was a little impatient on my end. But I mean, you see how this can cause a problem. It should tell you, hey, purchase your product or put the product in the cart. Thank you for purchasing the product or something. It didn't happen. And PayPal just processed it twice. I had to call PayPal and already tell them what happened. Look, it happened within 2 seconds. Obviously, there's a mistake. I have to get the refund back. I have to wait like 5 business days or something like that. It was frustrating. But these are the reasons, again, if you don't, architect it properly, it's not going to work. Error prevention is the best error handling. Complement, don't complicate. Error messages should describe what happened, explain why it happened, suggest a fix, never blame the user. So that's why when there's something happening on your website or something's not working, put something there so people don't just put error 404. You don't want default errors to show up, right? Oops, my apologies. So here's another one here. This was the other one, error prevention. So that's the same thing I'm reading here. This was the Twitter. Twitter did it, right? And it was kind of blah and boring, and bear with us, we've made a mistake. But this was a little more fun when they introduced it afterwards. They put a little humor into their problem. So they put a picture of the little birds carrying a whale. The picture represents the problem by saying Twitter is over capacity. This is former X, by the way, right? So basically, they were overloaded and had a problem with their infrastructure, and they put a little picture of birds carrying a whale. So that was their way of converting this into that, like a humorous way of communicating with their users and members. The 5 principles are interrelated. Consistency helps people use what they know. Visibility of opportunity can invite interaction. Learning is easier than predictions are accurate. Feedback facilitates learning. Remember, you're not designing it for yourself. Understand the goal and needs you're designing for. Think hard about the design and the experience. Set the user's expectations for the experience. Don't hinder, obstruct, or interfere with the experience. Try to break what you built before you be your own worst visitor, basically. Again, you're not designing for yourself. So this is what testing goes in. You can do so much on your own, but there's nothing better than you giving your website or app to someone else and say, here, figure it out and watch their reaction and see how it works. Get people's feedback. Feedback is very important, and testing is very important. Now, this is information architecture here. This is a really complex website, right? Without this, how would you build something like that without having a plan or an architecture of a website? It'll be almost impossible. And these are legends. The legends tell you what exactly this is. This could be like a big financial infrastructure or something, right? Organize, categorize, and prioritize. Information architecture is the creation of organizational and navigational schemes. A good IA, not AI, IA, allows people to move through content efficiently and effectively. It's about more than just finding content. It's also about educating, informing, and persuading, often in equal doses. An effective information architecture, IA, is flexible, accommodating growth, and adapting to change. Because you can always go here and add a section, delete a section, and do whatever you have to do as an architect or designer. Here's the hierarchical tree. These are the types of information architecture. This is a standard structure with an index page and a series of subpages. You did this last semester. You're probably doing one this semester in your web design class, right? Are you creating a site plan? No, you're just making a website? You have to deliver one of these, right? Maybe at the end, okay. Because you needed a flow chart or systematic scheme, right? To actually present your case. Because especially if you're working with people or clients or teams, you have to know who's doing what. You have to say what this page is, what that page is, where this one's gonna go, that's gonna go. This is all very important. It's the standard structure with the index page and subpages, like I said, good for organizing complicated structures that resemble a desktop website or a system structure. Multifaceted navigation structures can present a problem for people using small screens. That's true. This is called the hub and spoke. This is like more like an interactive app on your phone. This gives the user a central index hub. They'll navigate out from here. User can't navigate between spokes. So you're not going to go from here to over here. You have to go from here back to the main hub to go over there or back and forth. So it's more like organizational. They have to return to the main hub basically to go from wherever they want to go. Good for multifunctional tools within an app, each with its own internal navigation and purpose. How many of you use the Humber app on your phone? How's your experience on that one? I really didn't like it. Huh? Come on now. It's an actual website, actually. There is something called, I forgot the name, but there's this Blackboard. You can look for Blackboard and you can download Blackboard on your phone and hook up the institution, in this case, Humber, to the actual thing. It's okay. But once you press the X button, you close everything, you have to log back in. It's frustrating, right? Very frustrating. So now I know what X to press because they're very similar. The UI basically needs work. Okay, that's what I'm saying. So that reminds me of this when you get in there. You have to be very careful when you navigate with this app, because if you close it by accident, you have to go through the whole process of logging back in. This is called a nested list. This pattern leads users to linear paths to be more detailed contents. Basic search engines have this. You know, if you go to like a survey questionnaire, they take you from the steps to the next steps. So it's basically one screen to the next. A quick navigation, easy method under stress. It also gives the user a strong sense of where they are. Good for apps or sites with singular or closely related topics. It can be a barrier to exploring. Well, maybe not as, you know, cross-functional with searching and stuff, but easy to navigate with. The bento box. The dashboard displays portions of related tools or content on a main screen. This pattern is more suited to desktop or tablet due to its complexity. It allows users to get key information at a glance, but relies heavily on a well-designed UI. So if you have a bad, poor designed user interface, this will not work so well. Filtered view. The pattern allows the user to filter content in order to create an alternative view of a specific information set. Who can give me an example of something like this? Filtered view app on your phone. You all have this on your phone, huh? From the OS, yes, could be your contacts list. You can filter who you're looking for. How about Spotify or even iTunes stuff? You're filtering a genre of songs or artists or whatever, and then that gives you that section. And then from there, you go forward and backwards and stuff. It's basically the filtered view or the filtered navigation screen. Good for apps or sites with a high volume of contents. Right, online marketplaces, exactly, right? Like Amazon even. Like how are you gonna find, you can't just look at a million of products. It's better if you type what you're looking for and then it'll display that category. So if you have a lot of information, you have to consider putting filters and databases, basically. Getting to know nodes. A node is the basic unit of any information structure. We used to call nodes anchor points in Illustrator. Did you know that? I still call them nodes by accident. But back in the day, there was something called Corel Draw. Who here heard of Corel Draw or used Corel Draw before? Remember nodes? Illustrator uses anchor points, you know, the anchor handles, and Corel Draw is called nodes. Different terminology, same kind of thing. Well, this basically means something else. It's a basic unit of information structure. Nodes can be a small or single number, or as a large number, or an entire library. Nodes allow us to use a common language and common set of ideas across different problems. The organizing principles we use determine how the nodes in an information structure are arranged. In other words, it tells us which nodes are grouped together and which are kept separate. Here's another organizing principle example, a corporate website versus a travel website. So the difference here between a travel website and a business website is basically the organization principle. The organization principle here is the audience. Are you a consumer? Are you a business? Are you an investor? That's basically the criteria there. But if you go to a travel website, what would be the organizing principle for a travel website? It wouldn't be audience, obviously. What's that one subject that you might? Geographical principle. Very good. Geography is what will help map or navigate a travel website. The first thing the travel website is going to ask you is, where are you going? Right? Or pick a destination. So geography is the organizing principle. Organizing rules of thumb. Organizing principles used at the highest levels or the site or app should be those most closely tied to user needs and business objectives. Those used at lower levels are usually influenced by feature specs and content requirements. Every collection of information has a built-in conceptual structure, and in most cases it has more than one. The hard part is in creating a structure. It's creating the right structure for our objectives and our users' needs. So you have to really consider this when building an app or website. What structure will work for you? That's why we're going to create, when we do the next, I think the project that I'm going to assign to you coming up very soon, you're going to have to include all these things in it. Right now, you're getting assignments for now. Your second assignment is user persona. The next one's going to be the project. So that's when this will kind of all fit together, okay? Organizing with facets. Facets are attributes of an information set that provide a flexible set of organizing principles for nearly any kind of content. However, using the wrong facets can actually be worse than using none at all. When users have too many options to sort through, they often can't find anything. It's our job, not the user, to identify these specific attributes of the information that will be most useful, usable, and valuable to the users. Who does what? So this is when you get to work in a group setting, and you're going to be working in, I think the way I'm looking at you right now, probably in threes. And who does what will be important. One of you might do the information architecture. One of you is going to do the user interface design. And the other person might do the interaction design and assembly. So you have three roles, and some of you might even group together and do the final presentation or testing the product. You're going to have different roles doing different things. In this case, it's still common for web development teams to have no one explicitly responsible for structure. So it typically lands in the lap of the developer, which unless there's a designer involved as well. In ideal situations, as information architect is on the team to deal specifically with issues related to information organization and related interaction. So this role is very important. Whether you have a specialist to address structure or not, someone needs to do it. And a lot of times I see companies do this, well, teams usually, not companies, but they do have these roles in place for a reason. Larger companies have larger teams of designers, developers, and architects that work together and always communicate with one another. Communicating structure. This is like back in the 1970s. We didn't have computers back then. Methods vary based on the complexity of what's being produced. For projects with a high volume of content in a hierarchical structure, text outlines are often enough to document architecture. I mean, even if like bullet points you do with Microsoft Word or some other things, this is how you create hierarchy of information. So you have title, subheading, points. 1.2, subheading, points. Another way to organize information in a written context. And this still works today. Right? This still works today. If you're doing any type of organization of information. Visual vocabulary. This is the Jesse James Garrett system for diagramming structures. This is like, everybody follows this rule because it seems to work. Like you have the home, the media, the products, the support, just a basic outline of a formula that's easy to orchestrate or a plan to follow. Almost most solutions that you see out there can be inherited from this design here. Another one here is for more higher end database developer type of products. And this is also what's used right now. You have a login page, login, success, right? What happens when you log in successfully? You go over here with the login flow and you watch the news or whatever social media is, right? And then you can access all these things. Continue to the members list. But if you don't log in, if it's a no, what happens? You go back to the login page. And what happens then? You reset your password. How many times you have to do that? Reset your password, can't log in, or sign in with your Facebook, or sign in with your Google account, things like that. So this is, again, another information architecture that's been proven to work, and it's implemented in everything that we use today. Hub and spoke diagram. Not too common, but I've seen it in a lot of visual marketing magazines and timelines and things like that. We can see how this information also helps organize things in a broader sense. And I'm just zooming it in right now to show you. What happened here now? I'm still recording. I can see my screen down there. Which categories go together? Which don't? How do we how do the steps in an interaction sequence fit together? This is a more complex design. We can see how imperative this is to everything that we're talking about because, you know, of how everything's related to one another. Good. And so we're approaching the end of the presentation. So these are the takeaways, things to remember. Good structure organizes information in a way that provides intuitive access to the content. Structure is created by interaction design, which many presenting information in a way people can understand and interact with it. Structure is also created by information architecture, which is the combination of organization, labeling, search, and navigation systems within any digital product. That means websites or apps. Structure should be appropriate for the audience and flexible to accommodate change. So you should be able to do changes with any hassle. Whether you have a specialist to address structure or not isn't important, but someone needs to do this job. You can't skip this process when you're developing a high-end digital product. You have to consider this stuff. Focus on relationships between content elements. Which categories go together, which don't? How do the steps in an interaction sequence fit together? This is just an exercise if you want to kind of come up with something to navigate this. So let's kind of do it verbally, okay? I'll give you, I know you have your user persona, I'm not going to overwhelm you with little exercises, but let's just pretend we're doing this right now. Assume you have the same edition of a newspaper or magazine. One is online and the other one is a printed hard copy, right? I've done a similar thing. I used to do the yellow pages before. Like I had a book that's 200 pages and I had all these businesses in it and people would go through and, flip the pages to look for, it's like a yellow page directory. But then we did one online. So that's a good comparison of this too. How would you go about looking for updated news about the trial of a famous athlete from a different country than your own in each version? Think about how you would do this in each case and write down the narrative for the process. So again, let's say you're looking for an updated news about the trial of a famous athlete from a different country than your own in each version. Obviously, the website's easier, right? You can kind of look at it and query the search and find this information. Whereas the printed directory, where would you go in the printed directory to find this stuff? Table of contents, index, and then that would tell you to go to page 34, and then you go to page 34 to find that information. That's just how it stimulates different way of thinking. Once you're done, consider the following. Which process allowed you to find the information more easily? So I want you to put this in perspective. We all know the answer, but kind of the thought process is important here. Do that same process allow you to find the information more quickly? How could each information architecture path be modified to improve speed or efficiency? And what significant differences do you see in the IA of each version, online versus print, of the newspaper? So obviously we know what the difference is, right? One's more laboriously, involved and you have to kind of work more. The other one is a lot more harder. Do you guys remember the microfiche days? Microfiche? The libraries had it. You have to get a small little film and get the zoom camera and you can get any newspaper you want. I get a newspaper from 1950 and they give me a little film strip. Not a computer. It looked like a computer, but you have to kind of feed it through this, like a microscope. And the microscope would zoom into this little film and you can see this thing blow up on your screen. That was our computer. They still have it right now. It's kind of interesting how you can still use old technology to find information the same way. But you really have to. But they have to catalog it somehow. So that's why yeah. Right. It would be a huge job. Yes, someone had to go in there and segment each thing separately. But that's how they would microfiche everything and store this much data into this much, like we're doing right now with microchips and digital technologies. Okay, so we got two more to go. Okay, and the two are the skeleton and the surface. This is when we talk about more like the wireframing, the prototyping, the interface design, things like that. We're done all the other research stuff. So right now, what I want you to do is focus on your user persona assignments. Okay, work on that one, and then I'm gonna tell the IT people to install XD if they can here. Okay, if not, those of you can use Figma, but the rest of you, I'll give you the option of using both. Okay, because I'm gonna teach you both programs, and you can pick one or the other, and then we'll stick with Figma going forward because that's the future, right? Just for this one exercise, I had it set up as XD. All right, so having said all that, I'm going to stop the recording. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video and have yourselves a great weekend. Bye for now.